Okay, yeah, I just want to do this. I was thinking about it. I've been thinking about it for a long time. I hadn't really said anything about it, but it's kind of like some humor about the thing about it's not so eccentric that it misses the value of on-site location, and the Mount Olives thing. A little bit of humor about what forbearance is and the way of Vantage Love 30. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So it's kind of like the deal about Vantage Love 30 and the tennis court, the tennis ball and the baseball, and the 90-degree right angle of the baseball field, representing a 90-degree right angle as well as the infinite lines that way of a 90-degree and symmetrical, asymmetrical of the 90-degree right angle, getting to the panoramic thing about the 180-degree thing. But anyway, yeah. So like I was thinking about the margin spread as well between the two players or four players on the tennis court, representing the marginal spread that way, and how ACTP colon double forward slash and the Austin Powers and the 84 thing about the 1965 and the 84 thing about MC and Austin Powers Blue Bonnet, Imperial Eagle, that way is, I can't believe it's butter, But anyway, it's kind of like but I have VSAT. Yeah, yeah, and I have Saturn sky onion rings in orbit for sure. Da 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 da. Come on, I really can't believe it's butter anyway. Da 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 da. Yeah, and my toilet doesn't require rid of habeas corpus. Da 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 da. Yeah. Well, anyway, so anyway, I was thinking about the Iowa as compared to the Iowa New Bags thing about like an inaugural ball thing about the Well of Awesome thing, and the shampoo and the 87 thing about the Well of Awesome, as well as the numerical value of 12 being spelled out, representing everything that the numerical as well as the alphamerical represented is in that way. So anyway, I was thinking about the deal about borrowers terminology and like international financial management as compared to the acronym and the separation between church and state, and all that greatness about the thing about the New Bags Iowa, and how Iowa's normally suggesting like a Iowa caucus, and it's borrowers terminology. It's kind of like Iowa. Yeah. Well, anyway, it's kind of it's almost like not necessarily the euro dollar, but it's like the Iowa. I mean, it's kind of like, you got to be kidding me. It's kind of like almost a difference between like the biggest borrower's terminology of international financial management. The word itself, financial. I mean, it's obviously that, or what it seems to be ultimately getting to. The thing about it's not so eccentric that diminishes the value of on-site location, and really what the forbearance really is to the Vantage Love 30 in the way of ground rule double. I mean, for real. Yeah, the ground rule double between like the tennis thing involving Vantage Love 30 in the way of like a two-minded scores consecutively is the requirement to even be allowed to be eligible to score the third point for the win, and the ground rule double for the baseball that way. Likewise, a ground rule double, gets two bases, and another ground rule double would be an automatic score in that same way in principle, but practical in practical application, based upon some analytical that way of like forward reverse and Pentagon Reserve reverse, or intelligence and opposite integration of practical application of alphanumerics and linguistics that way, that represent something in my mind and in political sense of like the Iowa thing and the New Bags Iowa, and it's kind of like a little bit of humor there, like I said, about the Mount Olives and all that, a little bit of humor about re-entering heaven, and the forbearance and that way, and what that is to normal terminology involving forbearance would only suggest maybe what would be identified sometimes in student loans in the Department of Education, that forbearance would only be maybe a percentage in the way of what might be a depletion of principal by maintaining a constant in the form of the terminology like forbearance with what would be considered, I don't know if I would say it would be limited to conditions that would maybe present what would be borrower's terminology in that way. Obviously, of student loans, but normally, that would involve whether or not if a default is the factor or not, or instead of default, having a forbearance to maybe what would be considered, avoiding maybe what might result as a default as compared to conditions that might, be the complete in terminology that would thoroughly represent, even, in my mind, almost immediately, something about the IRA and the Reese's statute. Yeah, and I was just now thinking about it. It's kind of like wondering, if the one pronoun that cannot be used as a subject is the only thing about family law and the in-law. And I'd mentioned, something about certain factors of that, because there seems to be like many things that seem to be whether or not the one pronoun that cannot be used as a subject of the four types of pronouns. And that's kind of like thinking about the in-law, and how before any accusation, whether it's a corporate venture, merger, or business in a way that might even suggest some integrating or compatibility between business and corporate law, or family law. That really it's kind of even really kind of hard to prove that marriage is even a reality. I mean, when it gets to something like an in-law, it's kind of like it refers to the in-law. It's kind of like before any accusation of participation as a reputable standard of consensual participation in family law, maybe it might even give the common law thing, but I don't think that's really, that might work for some people, or some thought that anything beyond that, like involving like the word marriage, is like, even if anyone can even prove that it's a reality, even in like family law, I mean, would, yeah, so like that in-law thing, okay, it's like before, any thought of like a joint venture or merger in a way would be representative in a way of what having the right to assemble is, and all that constitutional amendments, and all that fact that at large scale, and all that thing about it. But the thing of it is that um, the in-law is like the pronoun that can't be used for a subject, because before any consensual petition, a representative consensual participation, normally identified in family law that might represent a marriage as compared to like joint venture and merger. It seemed like before any marriage, the claim is that in-law never had anything to do with the family, and like even during, I mean, the in-law is the in-law, and still, doesn't have anything to do with the family. Yeah, and likewise, and even after any thought that some people might call it a dissolving issue, and the truth of the matter is some of the terminology that's been kind of like been made available. I'm not real sure how practical. It is based upon whether if experience is only, neglect based upon neglect based upon lack of experience. And so anyway, I mean, I've heard business terminology or some direction into thinking that when the word dissolve would be like something in the way of a diminishing, or contractual, in the way of what might even be representative of what you've seen in certain movies of irreconcilable differences. So anyway, yeah. So I mean, if that's the deal about the, you know, uh, unity is or not, or participation as a representative of a, whatever right someone may mean as personal level, or even a corporate venture and merger. But anyway, yeah. So the point is that it's getting the thing about the all that, and I wanted to mention that because it was a little bit of humor. I was thinking about what forbearance is, as to the Mount Olives and all that stuff about the that I'd mentioned about the Iowa, Newbags, Iowa. I mean, it's got a little bit of humor. It's kind of like there's something about that, and I've been thinking that something about it is like the international financial management that way, because it seems to be like Iowa's used predominantly quite a bit, and during the conventional and political statement, and how true it is if it's limited to primary. I'm not real sure. I don't know if I really need to be. I mean, if it's only a difference between a Republican or a Democrat or a Libertarian, or well then, yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna kind of keep it right there right now. But I was kind of thinking that all that Newbags, Iowa, and the presidential inaugural ball thing would be the thought of whether borrower's terminology would only distinguish the difference being above or below business and corporate law in that way, or the redundant frequency, or the RF about the thing about even language, or what it is on the front lines of the beachfront, or once again, and all that included with Homeowners Association and General Motors Acceptance Corporation, GMAC, and the International Electronic Engineering. I'll be in IEEE, and the 24 thing about it, and the SE with the Apple iPhone SE. Well, anyway, and the RF, the redundant frequency, seem to be like the identifier of what international law. I mean, it seems to be more and more like the identifier of residential as compared to how true it is about a commercial venue as a living quarter as compared to what neighborhoods normally might thoroughly suggest, or maybe through neglect based upon lack of experience here. But yeah, so it seems that I'm going to maybe think about it because it's kind of like a lot of information. I mean, I have been looking at it because I've been, guys tell me, hey man, you already know, and I'm like going a whole lot on my memory, and I'm discovering, I mean, so very much about things that we're involved with some of the same terminology and a whole different perspective. I mean, it's all the information is there, but the thing with this is that yeah, I was thinking about that. So anyway, I think I'll just like stop right there and keep that in real quick and maybe do something a little bit later. Okay, talk to you later.